Ricky Henry Live.
Woohoo!
Shout out to Ricky Henry Live.
To you, but actually make use of the people who are with you at this moment. In the words of Margaret Mead, she said, never underestimate a group of few people. They are the ones that have made a difference in the history, and it has. So given the fact that African Descent Ontario is bringing us together, even if it is one person, that one person can change the world. In the words of Mother Teresa, she said, if all of us swept our backyards, our rooms, our houses, this whole world would be clean. What are you doing differently as someone of African descent to promote justice, equity, and development? In the next couple of hours, we shall be listening to speakers and panelists. They will be telling us things that impact our lives on 5 major issues. 1, anti-Black racism. 2, strategic planning for justice. 3, education. 4, immigration. And of course, economic development and economic and community empowerment. So friends, I invite us all. Yes, we love our phones so much, but let this convention, this summit, be different. What may be helpful? That at least you use that phone to take notes, or to tweet that photo, or to put on your status that please come, I am at the summit. If we cannot communicate effectively as people of African descent, we are going to still remain at the societal margins. Take a little bit of an example. When we were introducing ourselves, some of us even feared getting on the mic. Some of us, we don't know, and we live in Canada. If we are to sell our products, do what Apofia did. Please come and visit my booth. We are here for sickle cell awareness. I do hair products. That is what we call communication. We cannot sit on the sidelines and we say we have no jobs, we have no papers, immigration, yet we are not taking that effort. Those are my opening remarks, and I really hope that before we get into our first speaker this morning, that we think differently. We are in this together, but no one is going to save us. Can I repeat it? The white man is not going to, or white woman, or white individual. They are not coming to save us. We have to save ourselves by uniting as a collective, by also sharing the few things that we've learned, the few wins. Let's be grateful for the time we have here. Let's be grateful that we can at least wake up today alive, that we can sit at the table and discuss. Some are in hospitals. Last night, the people who went to bed, they did not wake up this morning. Some gratitude is critical if we are to be a useful people on this planet. Thank you very much for listening to my welcome remarks. And I will hand over to our first speaker. Is Hope here? Hope, do you have any welcome remarks?
I'd like to welcome everyone for taking time and be here. You know, this is African descent, and you expect a lot of delegates from African background. Today we have the annual African Descent Summit. This is the 50th one. Our first one was in 2022, and we've been following the theme, recognition, justice, and development. You know where this comes from the Millennium Development Goal that were voted by the United Nations during the delegates meeting in Geneva. So we've been following this to share the contribution of people of African descent. As African descent, our focus has been Canada. What have we done as people of African descent? During introduction, we had people, you've been hearing presidents, executive directors, immigration officers, employers, people who are supporting people in crisis. Like I'd like to welcome you, Mr. Walid. I've never met you, but I've been hearing the great work you're doing as far as supporting people in crisis is concerned in the city of Toronto. So we've been having this summit to share and come together for people to learn from one another, to inspire each other, and also to navigate through the system and understand how we move forward as people of African descent in Canada. We have quite a number of people and staff members. 3 of our staff members are ill, actually, they're admitted, but thank God that prepared their speeches before. One just delivered, but she got some kind of challenges. Our Secretary General, Florence Tendai, she's the one who has been communicating to you directly. We have her speech ready. Once she's done, we'll hear from her. We also have our director event, Mr. Alexander Wima, also have his speech here. And I would like to inform you that this event is starting right now, but we are ending at 3 a.m. No, the summit starts 9 to 3, but we have a long day of 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. Like, I want to assure you that most people registered for 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. and this one's gonna be full. We have like, each table you see here is reserved by a team of people. So we're gonna have a full house. If you, we shall have to go for maybe a refreshment and then come back and relax, and then we have a party. We have an international artist who's coming from Uganda. He has some rappers he came along with from the United States as well. And also have our African Descent Assemble who will be here with us in the afternoon. So I'm just requesting that after the summit, let's stay and enjoy the award ceremony and then also the concert in the night. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A round of applause for Hope Birungi, Executive Director, African Descent Ontario. So how many of us are going to be here until 3 a.m.? Okay, 2 a.m.
2:45.
2:59 a.m. All of us? 5 a.m. Did you hear that? Round of applause. Please give him a round of applause. He said 5 a.m. Yes, we're here to talk justice, development, and equity. Mr. Is it ready? Our speech? Not yet. So people are still streaming in, and this is the African Descent Ontario Summit 2025. Those who have just joined us, I'm going to put you on the spot to tell us who you are. Everyone in this room has told us who they are. We are here to network. You never know what you said tonight, this evening, this afternoon, this morning. You may connect. Your next employer might be in this room or even online. People joining us online. Visit on africandescentont.com. And if you want to learn more, also on the social media pages. But I invite us all to connect with 2 people that you need to know today. Get their contact number, get their names, because it is very, very important. So my team that has just joined, immigration, anti-black racism. But let me tell you about him. If you follow events in Canada, not Toronto, Canada, He's been at the forefront of reminding us all that we need to work collectively as a community. His bio is extensive, but very importantly, he's a systems change person. He's volunteer. He doesn't come out on Saturdays, but he said, African Descent Ontario, I'll be here. Last year he was here, and we are so delighted to have him. Mr. Waleed, come take the stage and share your wisdom with us. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother. That was very kind introduction. So, my name is Waleed Kogali, and I'm really happy we're meeting today to talk about a very important issue, an issue that impacts all of us, which is anti-Black racism, white supremacy specifically. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight global but also local strategies to address anti-Black racism. So I want to make sure you don't just have a lecture, but there's some tangible things you can take home, you can take back to your organizations, okay? And so I want you to tell me how I do, okay? So we're going to start off by acknowledging that we're also on indigenous land. It's really important to start off all our remarks by centering the work that we do as part of a broader effort. So I'm gonna quickly do a land acknowledgement just to center my remarks, and then we'll start off. One second here. Okay. So I want to acknowledge that we are, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and we're also home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. And we also acknowledge that Toronto, we call Turtle Island, is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississauga and Chippewa bands. And I want to encourage you, whenever you're speaking in Canada or whenever you're speaking in North America, find out what nations continue to exist in our communities. We cannot negate the experiences of indigenous people on Turtle Island, okay? I also have an African ancestral acknowledgement that I want to read out. So I want to acknowledge that we are all treaty peoples, and we need to remember that as treaty people, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, whether in this generation, in generations past, and those of us that came here involuntarily, those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. And we pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. It's very important that we make those acknowledgements. And I see Pastor Eddie has joined us. Welcome, Pastor Eddie. Pastor Eddie is a member of the Crisis in Our City Network. So my remarks are going to focus on global and local strategies to address anti-Black racism, which is also part of this system of white supremacy. Right? It was created through the system of white supremacy. So I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak on this matter. And it's a challenge that we are addressing in every aspect of our lives, whether you're in business, whether you are doing community work, whether you are an educator, whether you're a healthcare professional, Whether you're supporting folks through our settlement services and immigration, it is something that you will not be able to ignore. So across the globe, we see the devastating impact of anti-Black racism in multiple forms, from the legacies of colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade to contemporary systems that continue to deny Black communities access to justice, opportunity, safety, and dignity. These systems are not abstract. They're built into our institutions, our laws, our economies, and even our narratives of history. I hope you got that last part. And even our narratives of history. Very important. Globally, addressing anti-Black racism requires one important thing: transnational solidarity and accountability. And I'm so glad we have our sisters from Tanzania here. We have folks from Zimbabwe. We have folks from Uganda. We have folks from the United States. This transnational solidarity and accountability is very important. Governments, NGOs, and multilateral institutions must support the call for reparations, truth-telling, and reconciliation processes that acknowledge the historic and ongoing harms experienced by people of African descent. Secondly, we need to invest in Afro-descendant communities. Who's been to Nova Scotia? Has anyone been to Nova Scotia? Right? There's a huge African population in Nova Scotia. And I want to remind everyone that through the UN Decade for People of African Descent, we have a framework to promote recognition, justice, and development. And this must include funding for cultural, educational, and economic initiatives led by Black communities around the world. Thirdly, global data standards and monitoring. I do very important work supporting the City of Toronto on the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Advisory Committee. And what I always champion at those spaces is data. That we must be data-driven, that we must have benchmarks, right? That we must evaluate the work that we do, and this evaluation should come from members of the Black community and diaspora. So we must collect disaggregated, race-based data across nations to track systemic disparities in education, healthcare, housing, policing, and employment, and hold governments accountable for closing these gaps. And I want to cite some examples that you might be familiar with here in Canada. How many of you have heard of the term carding? Who's heard of the term carding? I see one hand up only, 2 hands, carding. You've heard of carding before? So carding, my friends, is when members of the Black community are just stopped for no reason. Their identification is checked. They feel profiled. The information is put on a database. They haven't committed a crime, but you look suspicious here. Why are you in this neighborhood? Huh? This is stuff that happens too often. And it was Black communities that came together to call for the end of carding, to the call for the end of arbitrary stops in our neighborhoods. What we also learned is something called overcharging. Have you heard of overcharging? You've heard of overcharging? Simply put, overcharging is when members of the Black community, and this impacts Black women disproportionately, unfortunately. Black women, Black men, Indigenous women, Indigenous men. And what happens is you get charged with so many offenses that you negotiate the least of the criminal offenses, not knowing that you now have a criminal record. And because you have a criminal record, you can't get access to a good job. You can't get those loans to start a business. You're basically pushed out to the margins. And it's happening in Toronto. And you know why we know that it's happening in Toronto? because of data. We asked the Ontario Human Rights Commission to look at data from Toronto Police Services for the past 5 years, and we came to the conclusion that overcharging is impacting our communities. So again, data is critically important in holding governments accountable for closing this gap. The other item is youth employment and diaspora exchange. We need to create opportunities for Black youth to connect across borders, sharing tools of resistance, knowledge, but also joy to build a future that is rooted in liberation and collective power. And sadly, I don't see that happening. We do not have an organization, and maybe one of you is going to start this, an organization that brings youth together from the African diaspora, but also from the African continent to talk about this really important intersectional approach that will empower youth to share best practices and also be a support system for each other. So nationally here in Canada, we must confront a difficult truth. Racism, or anti-Black racism, is not only a Southern issue. You know, when we start thinking, oh, it's a US problem. It's those people living in the South. No. It is woven into the fabric of our country from slavery and segregation. And by the way, there was slavery in Canada. Anyone who thinks otherwise, that's a myth. Slavery existed in Canada. And segregation also existed here in Canada. But we also need to think about the modern day challenges when it comes to policing and economic exclusion. Many of my Black friends, Black brothers and sisters sometimes can't get access to a mortgage. They can't get access to home ownership. They can't get access to loans for businesses. This is a real challenges that impact us today, not yesterday. To dismantle anti-Black racism or white supremacy in Canada, we must, one, implement, and this is a start, but I know we'll get there, implement and fund the Black-led national strategy. We must act on the calls from organizations like the Federation of Black Canadians. Shout out to Chris Thompson, the executive director, who's a good friend of mine. And also the Black Legal Action Center, who have outlined clear policy demands around justice reform, education equity, housing, and income security. So we have Black-led organizations in Canada that are putting forward evidence-based solutions that will help us address these challenges. Second, I'm proud to say this, I'm an abolitionist. I do not believe that we need to have policing in our society, because policing, when it was set in place, it was meant not just to protect property, but it was meant for a specific purpose. And I think it's important that when we're talking about policing and reforming policing and justice systems, we need independent oversight of these services. We need divestment from carceral approaches, and we need to invest in Black-led community safety. One great example is, have you heard of the Toronto Community Crisis Service? Who's heard of the Toronto Community Crisis Service? No one's heard of the Toronto Community Crisis Service? They're not doing a good job marketing it. Oh, you do? Amazing. Why will you call the Toronto Community Crisis Service? I'm going to come to my here and ask her. Why would we call when people are driven away from that basic human right, we create conditions for crime. And what I want to say is we need to better protect Black tenants and workers. So anti-Black racism is deeply economic. We must ensure rent controls, anti-displacement policies, decent work legislation, and universal income supports that serve Black communities disproportionately impacted by poverty. So why now? We live in a new era, my friends. Have you all heard of artificial intelligence? Yes? Do you use ChatGPT? Use ChatGPT? Do you know how many people are going to lose their jobs because of, or at least be displaced from their employment? We live in a new era, so I think it's important that we make sure that we have those universal income supports as well while we transition. The fourth thing that I want to say, just before I talk about the local example, is we need to invest in Black culture and political infrastructure. And I know Pastor Eddie knows this point very well. Funding must support Black-led organizations, artists, healers, researchers, and advocates. True equity means resourcing not just survival, but Black imagination, innovation, and sovereignty. We need to be intentional when it comes to funding, but we need to organize as Black Canadians, Black Torontonians, members of the African diaspora. We need to organize politically. We need to make sure that our voices are at the table. Whether it's City Hall, whether it's Queen's Park, whether it's Ottawa, we need to be at the table. Because there's a famous saying. The saying goes, if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. If you are not at the table, you are on the menu. You don't want to be on the menu, my friends. We're gonna lose so much that we've gained. Never assume the victories that our forefathers or our ancestors have won will be retained. We have to be vigilant, very vigilant. In Ontario, we must strengthen and expand the work of bodies like the Ontario Human Rights Commission and fully implement the recommendations of reports. For example, a collective impact, which is an interim report on the inquiry into racial profiling and racial discrimination of Black persons by TPS. There's great work done by provincial organizations that we must support. We must also demand that all provincial policies, from education to healthcare to transit, include an equity lens that centers Black lives. I want to let you know, I don't believe in user fees for public services. I don't understand why we have fares for public transit. That is a tax or a charge, an unfair charge on the poor, on the most marginalized in society. We live in a progressively taxed system. We should move away from practices that will criminalize and make it difficult for many of us, many people who come from the African diaspora, to gain employment opportunities, services, city services, and other important services. Now, I want to quickly talk about local in Toronto. Local in Toronto, we're making progress, but the road is long. First of all, the Toronto Action Plan to confront anti-Black racism. How many of you know that we have a Toronto Action Plan? Well, we've got one person here. Amazing. 2 people. Good. That's an important plan. I'm in the process with my colleagues, the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Advisory Committee, to update that plan for the next 10 years. And like I said earlier, we're going to be data-driven in that work. It's one of the things that we're hoping to do is make sure that this plan, which was launched in 2017, which was a historic first, by the way, It doesn't exist in many cities or municipalities. But we want to make sure the implementation requires consistent leadership, funding, and accountability, not just statements. And in fact, if you want to join this committee, you can apply to serve on the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Advisory Committee. Come and talk to me about it after this talk, and I'll show you how to apply. Okay? But this is a way to be at the table, not on the menu. I'm going to be saying that a lot today. We also are going to make sure that City Council prioritizes Black voices by shaping decisions on housing, development, public safety, and also budgeting. So I always pose this question to city staff and the city manager. What is the budget implication of the decisions being made on Black people? How is this money going to support the Black diaspora? And we don't want to just be consulted. You know, you heard of this word consultation? I don't like it. We want co-governance, co-development. And we've done it. In Regent Park, where there's a lot of Black people, a lot of racialized people, we demanded better. We said we don't want our city councilor to be meeting with developers in closed doors. We want to co-develop how these investments are going to be spent in the community. And guess how much money we were able to secure for the community? $26.8 million for the next couple of decades. 26.8, right? You started clapping, that's good, thank you. It was not easy, but it is possible. So we need to set standards. We need to manage expectations. We need to make it clear we're not here to be consulted. We're here to be at the table to co-develop the solutions that will work for our communities. So let us remember, the goal is not to integrate into oppressive systems, but to transform them. Anti-Black racism is not a Black problem. It is a structural problem. And it's everyone's responsibility to dismantle it. Everybody. So in closing, I want to leave you with this. White supremacy, anti-Black racism is global. It is a global challenge. But I want to also note, so is Black resilience, brilliance, and power. If we are serious about equity and justice, then we must act with urgency and boldness in our cities, our provinces, our country, and across the world. So thank you everyone for having me here to speak about anti-Black racism. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, brother. So friends, what did you learn? One thing before we take a break. Coffee and tea and refreshments are ready. One thing that you learned. Show of hands. Okay. Yes. Susan, can you help me pass the mic around? Or anyone else? And on that note, I want to invite us all to kindly include your name. There is a sheet going around. Register your name, include your phone and email. Please check on your tables. We need to know who is here, but also, how can we connect with you after this event? This is just an opportunity for dialogue. The real learning happens when we are outside of these four walls, when you can connect, when we can inspire others, when the cameras are not in front of us. The other thing that I learned, being from a province near Nova Scotia, that Africans have been part of Canadian history. We are. But also, he reminded us that there are systems of oppression for 500 years. A single day of 5 hours may not really break it down, but a strategy, just like the Toronto Crisis Network and so many other things. What Pastor Eddie Jumba and the team are working on is trying to work on a long-term strategy. On Prince Edward Island, PEI, I challenged my local leaders. I told them, in the whole of Atlantic Canada, only one city, which is Halifax, had passed the African descent, the International Decade of People of African Descent. I told them, PEI, we can do better. Guess what? I got to my local mayor, very small town of like 3,000 people. And they never heard about that. I'm almost the only black person in church. They see a black couple, me and my wife, at the groceries. They even look at you. And so I was fairly known. I told the mayor, we need this small town to be the first across PEI to pass the International Decade of African Descent. Guess what? We had a coffee with him. A few weeks later, he invited me and the council, and I made my case. They give you 3 minutes. You know 3 minutes? Very short, you have to be on point. It was approved, and the town of Three Rivers in PEI was the first to approve and recognize the International Decade of African Descent. And you can do it in your own community. Although Toronto already did so, but small changes don't need many people. They need resolve. And I really hope that the remarks from our brother can inspire us and those that are coming after the break. Friends, let's stretch our bodies. Let's grab something to eat, and we will be back with Kamala, who will be telling us immigration. Stick around. Thank you. Breakfast is ready. Tech team, are we almost there? Stretch, breakfast, get to know each other. I have an assignment of Toronto. Because of time, I want to introduce her. She has a long bio, but she's
Yes.
Dr. Tobi, she's defending in a week.
In a month.
In a month, okay, in a month. She's a little bit nervous. I told her it's okay to be nervous,
Thank
but
you.
do something about it.
Yes.
Over to you.
Thank you so much, Brother Henry. Thank you for everyone who's present. Before I start, I want us to reflect on a Bible verse. I know there will be different religions, if you have the Quran, if you come from the Baha'i faith and everything. But I want you to reflect on the Bible passage which says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." So this is coming from Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, that is King James Version. Of course, this is not expected from someone who's in academia, no? So the full version of King James Version says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy truth." So my discussion today is more of an information discussion, because when we talk about my people perish due to lack of knowledge, what does the first thing that come into your mind? I was told that the slides will be there by the tech people. So as I talk about that, so today what I'm really doing, I don't like these things. I'm too African. I swear. Like this is destroying my mood. So my people perish due to lack of knowledge is a very powerful thing, especially for people of African descent. They also told us that the best way to hide information for us Africans is through the what? We even know. So, this purpose of this equity information is very much open within the Canadian government, where you can see and know. So I'm just going to share different strategies. And then when we talk about my people perish due to lack of knowledge, when we talk about equity, I'm not looking at a dividend approach.
Especially when we travel abroad, we are given labels. When I came from Zambia, I was a Zambian, I was a Bantu, I was coming from this village, and then they came here, they told me you are a black woman. That's a label. And again, the Bible tells us, my people perish due to lack of knowledge. Do you know who you become in this land? And then the Bible again tells us that I will bless your generations. He did not say white generation, black generation. He said all generations. Which generation are you? So my discussion today, I'm centering it on my spirituality and reminding us as people of African descent who we are and what each Holy Bible, Holy Book says we are. And every time you walk in this space, always remind yourself, we perish because of lack of knowledge. And when we know who we are, we understand when we talk about equity lenses, we understand who we are as a people. Not who we are as black people or brown people or white people, it's who we are as a people. So my research is centered on Ubuntu. Ubuntu says, I am because you are.
You are because I am. So, in understanding this Ubuntu, it's a concept, it's an African traditional concept which I grew up with. So I have the question. So my research is centered on understanding what does this Ubuntu mean for me and how do we work with it? So I am because you are. You are because I am. It doesn't say I am a woman because you are a man. You are a man because I'm a woman. You are black because I'm white. No, it says I am because you are. You are because I am. Yes, as a human. And there was no definition from those African traditions. And again, when the Bible tells us my people, they're...
So this is not me talking to you, it's going to be more of a conversation. And if I'm too fast, give me a signal. So we will talk about, I think we've had the opening remarks, the land acknowledgement of the land we are in. We'll talk about the equity and strategic planning. We'll talk about group activities, like we just spent some time on that. We'll also talk about, the different designs and so on. So, there is always a saying that whenever you go to a land which is not yours, it's important to acknowledge. And I know you would have prayed as well before the session started, so I assume that has been done. So we gather on the traditional territory of the Mississauga of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people. We acknowledge the interconnections between colonial structures affecting indigenous and black communities. So when they talk of the positionality, I will say, of course, I'm here as a fellow community member, and I'm here also to see how we can share knowledge and ideas. And the purpose is to really share more about these issues of equity and strategy. So I'll do a little bit of, notes on terms of the decade of people of African descent. After so many struggles, after so many issues, in 2018, Canada officially recognized the UN International Decade. With approximately, we have 1.5 million Black Canadians who continue to face persistent inequalities, with 1 in 5 experiencing systematic discrimination in education, employment, housing, and justice system. And then secondly, when we talk about justice, is literally addressing systematic barriers in the legal and social systems through reform initiatives, through accountability, through measures, and through community-led restorative justice approaches. The other, we look at development. It's also about creating opportunities for economic and social advancement. And of course, if you go through the federal government website, it tells us that
The federal government, of course, announced about 25 million investment in Black-led initiatives for 2024, which presenting opportunities and challenges. The question is, has any of you heard about that? You have? So, 2 out, maybe, how many are we? 30? I still go back to the issue. My people perish due to lack of knowledge. So there's a $20 million out there which was meant for Black-led initiatives, and only 2 out of this conference knows about that. Then capacity building, strengthening community organization and leadership through sustainable funding model, leadership development, and organizational and infrastructure development. So when you go, this information is what I found on the Canadian federal government website. So I always ask the question, when we come to community organization, I know, I think I've seen pastor somewhere. I'm currently working with Whitney College Hospital, and I saw pastors' initiative and doing with refugees and all that. So that's one of the initiatives. I've seen other Black initiatives from my university where there are entrepreneurs. We've seen different initiatives are happening. Question I have for the audience here, is any of you working in an initiative for your community? Do you volunteer? How many of us volunteer within our communities? Okay. So we are present, service above self. So this is just the context when we talk about the decade for the people of African descent, and this is what the Canadian government is trying to do, and they continuously do. That was 2024. We don't know what's going to happen 2025. If I'm not mistaken, the budget is still not yet out, right? So who is advocating that we have inclusion of our issues in the budget? How many of us are working with our MPPs or MP, because these are issues, one person. How many of us know who's our MPP or MP in our area? How many of us interact with them? So please take time now to read and make request of what you want to include in the budget. So these are some of the things that we need to start being more proactive. So when I talk about equity, I always ask, what are we doing ourselves before we ask what the government is doing for us?
Yes. So in terms of reframing strategic planning, I'm very glad that I went home last year. It reminded me that when you come here, it's an individualistic approach. You are on your own. Until you survive, you make it, whether you are rushing through papers, or you are going through your academics, or you are raising your family, you are on your own. But when you go back to where we come from, we work as a community. It was very good when I went home, they'll be like, who did this? We did this. When you come here, it's me, myself, and I. So there is strength in unity. There is strength in community. So I'm hoping that one of the strategies to strengthen our own community networks, it could be through religion, if we go to church or go to the mosque, but also within our neighborhoods. I think that's the most important thing. And when I say community, let's not forget who we are. When we come here, we forget who we are because we are chasing, I think in my language they call it, we are chasing the bag. There is also a proverb in my culture which says, one finger cannot pick lice. Meaning that this equity, the lice will be there, you can't. One finger cannot pick lice. So it means that in togetherness, we can achieve so much. But because we are so much struggling within system, within the education, we forget that with one, it will take you 10 years. With together, it can even take you months. All you need is call 2, 3, 4 people, consult, get everything, like what Madam Hope has done, bringing us together so that we can,
lift whatever it is that we need to lift in different approaches. So always know that there's power in togetherness.
Then the other thing that I really want to talk about is the Ubuntu. It's an African way of doing things. There is an African proverb which says it takes a whole village to raise a child. But when we come here, it's so difficult to even have community presence in everything we do because there is no more a sense of trust. So when we talk about Ubuntu, there are also certain values because we just can't say one finger, the whole of us. If there's no care, there's no trust, there's no empathy. If I can't trust you, will I come and tell you what I need to do? If there's no love, because I am, because you are, because how I want to be treated is the way I should treat you, right? So if there's no love, because we just can't be like, oh, let's work together as a community. If there's no trust, there's no love, there's no empathy, there's no care, it's a lost cause. So when I'm talking about Ubuntu, I'm talking about different values that will allow us to uplift one another with those values, and we're going to have a powerful community. And anything we do, because it's centered on love, it's centered on care, it's centered on empathy, things move. Do you know why we go to the mosque or the church? I always use religion as an example. Do you know why? Prayers and worship without love, prayers and worship without care, prayers and worship without trust. It's not possible. So the whole thing that we go to there is the same thing. It shouldn't just remain in prayers. It should move with you in your community. Because when you move it to your community, you are going to move things. Because the church, the mosque, when the church make a statement, even the government stop, because they have that community. But if you are one lone voice, only in the Bible I was told there was only one voice who was able to call in the desert and people came, John the Baptist. That was just one. But for us, in the situation we are in, when we talk about it, we need to work as a collective. There is power in the collective. No wonder we go in every space and identify, because we are a collective. So for me, those are the strategies. The strategies have always been there. And that's why I go back to say my people perished because of lack of knowledge. We have everything, except when life happens, we forget where we need to be. Then, to make these things easy, there has been different people who've written about it. So when you talk about Ubuntu, I always say the best example is what Nelson Mandela and South Africa was able to do. That goes as an example. Then there's, in the academics, there's somebody called Dr. Crenshaw from America was like, there's so many things here. When we are talking about, equity, they are calling it intersectionality, things that are putting things together. We need to, first of all, talk about race. We need to talk about gender. We need to talk about class. We need to talk about ability. And we need to talk about power. The power the woman, this one carries, and the power the table will carry, the power the pastor will carry, the power Madam Hope will carry is different. But when we start identifying each and every aspect of that power, we can now share that power. And when we agree that there are certain abilities men and women can do, to disagree is not confusion, it's not chaos. It's to agree that we are differently made. And because of that, and the power of race, we need to acknowledge that if this system, which was made by man, was made under aspect of inequality. And when we know, does it make us cry? Should it make us powerless? But when we know where the house was built, you know how to clean, right? Because when you know the house properly, I'm always going to use basics. I know this is a story house, and I know the best
where the foundation is. And when there are going to be leaks, I need to go to the foundation. And that's what we call the team of governors. Hello? If it's boring, tell me. I always see how many people are on the phone. I know, God, let me remind myself, let me go. So, when I'm telling you that my people perish to lack of knowledge, we should know what are the distractions again. When we know these inequalities, it will make us as a community strategize properly. Where do we enter? You can't just enter in the window. You will fall and break your legs. You can't enter in the night as a thief. You'll be shot. But when you enter in unison, because you understand the system, they will open the door for you. Enter. What is it? No, I have seen that this underground is not being used. I would like to use it. That is the importance of understanding intersectionality, is knowing the point of entry when we talk about inequalities. But most times, entering is sometimes can be noisy. Yeah, they are coming to steal. When you are just trying to enter and have a negotiation. So that's why I'm saying that as a community, we need to learn. Each house, this Canada is a house. But see, it also reports to another house, the global order, the UN, right? And we also come from our own cultures, which are the houses. So learning these things, the academics call them intersectionality by Dr. Crenshaw. Then, when we address these identities, we will know how to talk about oppression. What is oppression? Because we've now, no. See, with women here, we are carrying a lot of things. We are mothers, we are carers, we take care of these things. So, the time we're going to spend in school is not going to be the same as the man. So, I just want you to acknowledge those things and give me time and space to also operate in a space which is equity. Equity is not like I want to be together. I just want you to acknowledge certain things that I carry as a woman which need to be acknowledged. That is what we call the point of entry. I will not go more because the moderator is giving me a signal. I should be winding up. Henry, I see you. So, I will share the slide. Guiding principles, data-driven. Where is the number? How many are you in the community? How many of us even know how many, let's say, Ugandan people living in Ontario or Canada, do we have the data? How many who identify as Black? Data-driven information when we go to negotiate. That is some of the strategy. You just can't go, no, I heard. You heard from where? We all heard. No, because when I went, they talked about we need to come and get funding, there's 24 million. Yes, but how many are you? No, let me WhatsApp. Guys, my people perish due to lack of knowledge. Community-rooted processes that center us. I go back to that. Explicit power analysis. Who has the power? When you just sit in this room, one of you don't always sit how you came. Find out who has the power. When I come here, I should see the one holding the mic. He has the power, holding the mic. You need to know. When you understand what's the power, 5 minutes, you negotiate. Who else? I'll go to Pastor because I've seen, Pastor, I've heard. There is a project where you are working with the refugees and you're looking for volunteers. How do we come together? We also have a team. That's power. We just don't wake up. We just be everywhere. No. Explicitly understand those strategies. These are simple things that even our mothers told us back home, Except they told us in our local language, nah? But when we come here, because it's being told you in an English word, you think it's far beyond. No, there's nothing new under the sun. You hear? There's nothing new under the sun. Somewhere this happened. So, some strategic tools is policy mapping, coalition building, storytelling. We've even forgotten the art of storytelling. How many of us give storytelling of stories?
Facebook, Instagram. Let's have that connection because you never know when you need certain information. So, Madam Hope, we do not take it for granted that even in the most difficult times, you still made an effort to allow us to come and connect. So, thank you. Because of her, we are here. A big round of applause. Knowledge exchange. Madam Hope is doing it. She made sure that these are things touching us. She's not giving us good food, good entertainment, but she's blending it. When you learn, you shall eat. And when you eat, you shall dance. Will you forget? That is the Ubuntu. There are so many things that happen every day, but we are so much in a hurry. We even miss the little things like, oh my God, I'm one of them because I'm always in a hurry. And it's only now I was like, oh God, I have to take a breath and be like, yo, we need to take a moment and know the importance of interconnection. The humanity in us can move things beyond your imagination. These are some of the resources that I used. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone, thank you for listening. I'm ready to answer questions, but I have to declare I'm not an expert. It's a lived experience. But I hope you learned one or two, but let's keep the Ubuntu in us. There is power in knowledge and there is power in togetherness. Right now, the world is telling us there is chaos. It is what you decide to do as a community and what you decide to become. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We need to stand together and to fight because as of now, Canada, they always bring new rules, but they don't put those rules in us. So we need to fight together. So what I learned from you, the same thing I wanted to talk about. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just want to add something on that. Regarding the verse you read in Bible, we have the same in Islam. Okay, so it says, طَلَبُ الْعِلْمِ فَرِيضَةٌ عَلَى كُلِّ مُسْلِمٍ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ. Meaning, to look for knowledge is a must for a woman, for a girl and boy. You know, so yes, we have to look for knowledge. Knowledge doesn't mean that only religion or religious knowledge or anything. Everything. Why are we here? You know, so most of us, we forget even why we left our countries and why are we in Canada. You know, so lots of things which we have to learn and can benefit us, and we're leaving it behind. Okay, and another thing which unity. Also, we have a word in Swahili, umoja ni nguvu, utengano ni udhaifu. The same, yeah. Without unity is power, and separation is a weakness.
Can you say it again in Swahili together as a chorus? 1, 2, 3, go.
Umoja ni nguvu, utengano ni udhaifu.
One more time.
Umoja ni nguvu, utengano ni udhaifu.
I wanted it to sing.
Thank you very much. Did you learn something in just a second?
You know something I have learned when you said that the storytelling is something so powerful come into my mind, thinking how the story was giving us a power and to remain with the family, and wherever we go that we just we're just thinking how we've been told to fight for our lives. Or my mom used to say that you are a girl, you're gonna get married. As you know that in Africa, is getting married is something very important. You're gonna get married. But the thing is, when you get married, I'm not looking for you to come back home and having kids at my doorsteps. No. You go to your husband, and it's like you've been going to build your family. You are going to build a family down there, not going there and coming back, no. So you have to learn things, and they used to give us the story, how to handle family, how to handle kids, how to learn through mistakes, how to do the apologies, how to know to help each other, equity as a family. That's something you remind me a lot about it. Thank you so very much.
We just need one gentleman, just for balance of gender.
But this side.
And a gentleman should be this side. Do we have a teenager here, an adolescent? What have we learned, Treka? Have you learned anything? Okay, lovely. We have treasure here, a very good professional photographer, and he's going to balance the gender. Yes, please.
I've learned that unity.
Please talk to us. This side. Thank you.
I've learned that unity can bring Africans together to have ambitions and goals that Africans have completed. We can meet those goals by coming together and having peace and love for each other.
Very important. When we involve young people in talks like this, when we get old and retire, these are the people that are taking the world forth. So we have to involve them as much as possible. So I thank all parents that came with their children because it adds great value. Thank you very much.
There is 1 and 2. And we move on.
For me, it's not what I've learned from here, but I have a question for you. You talked about the 2 million, I'm seeing business people here, so, and you said there are only 2 people who knew about the funding that was available for African people. So how can they access this funding, and is it still available for them to have a startup for their businesses?
African Descent Ontario. Hi, Ricky Henry Live. Ricky Henry Live. Woohoo! Shout out to Ricky Henry Live.